I thought we'd finally made it. After years of struggling, scraping by, living paycheck to paycheck, we were homeowners. The house was gorgeous. A beautiful three-bedroom colonial with white shutters, a wraparound porch, and this massive oak tree in the backyard. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of. When Marcus handed me those keys on closing day, I cried. Actually sobbed right there in the driveway. I remember thinking, this is it. This is our fresh start, our forever home. But nothing is ever really yours when it comes with strings attached. I'm Sarah, and I need to tell you what happened. Because right now, I'm sitting in that same dream house and it feels more like a prison than a home. And the person holding the keys to my cell? My husband's ex-mother-in-law, Patricia. Yeah, you heard that right. Let me back up. When I met Marcus 4 years ago, he was recently divorced. His first marriage had been short, only about 2 years, and from what he told me, it just didn't work out. They were young, rushed into things, realized they weren't compatible. His ex-wife, Jennifer, had moved to California shortly after the divorce. Clean break, no kids, no drama, or so I thought. He rarely talked about that time in his life, and honestly, I didn't push. We all have a past, right? I was just grateful to have found someone so kind, so stable, so ready to build a future. Marcus was everything my ex-boyfriends weren't. He had a good job as a project manager, he was responsible, he wanted the same things I wanted. Marriage, a home, maybe kids someday. We got married 2 years ago in this intimate ceremony at a vineyard. It was perfect. Small, just our closest friends and family. And yes, his parents were there, but I noticed Patricia wasn't. Marcus's mom, not his ex-mother-in-law. I didn't even know Patricia existed yet. That should have been my first clue that something was off. About 8 months ago, Marcus came home with this crazy, excited look on his face. He could barely contain himself. He said he'd been looking at houses online during his lunch break and found the perfect one. It was in this amazing neighborhood, great schools, close to both our jobs. The price seemed almost too good to be true, but he said the owners were motivated sellers. We went to see it that weekend, and oh my God, I fell in love instantly. Hardwood floors, updated kitchen, this gorgeous master bathroom with a soaking tub. I could already picture our life there. Sunday morning coffee on that porch. Maybe a swing hanging from that oak tree for our future kids, but here's the thing. We didn't have enough saved for a down payment, not for a house like that. I'd been putting away money, sure, but we were still at least a year away from having 20% down. I told Marcus as much, trying not to let my disappointment show. He just smiled at me with this mysterious look and said, "Don't worry about it." He had it handled. I asked him what he meant. He said he'd been saving more than I realized, and he had some investments that had paid off. Plus, he said, he knew a lender who could get us a great deal. I wanted to believe him so badly. And honestly, I was so caught up in the excitement that I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't push. I just trusted him. We moved in 3 months later. The whole process was weirdly smooth. Too smooth looking back. Marcus handled most of the paperwork. He said he wanted to take the stress off me since I was dealing with a big project at work. I signed where he told me to sign, showed up to closing, and that was it. We were homeowners. Those first few months were bliss. Pure, ignorant bliss. I decorated every room. I planted flowers in the garden. I hosted a housewarming party and felt so proud showing off our home to friends. Our home. That's what I kept calling it. Ours. The first crack in my perfect reality came about 4 months after we moved in. I was home alone on a Saturday. Marcus had gone to play golf with some guys from work. I was in the kitchen making lunch when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there was this woman standing there. She was probably in her early 60s, well-dressed in expensive-looking clothes, perfectly styled gray hair. She had this smile on her face, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something about her made me instantly uncomfortable. She said, "You must be Sarah, I'm Patricia, just Patricia." Like I was supposed to know who she was. I stood there confused, and she must have seen it on my face because she laughed. This light, tinkling laugh that somehow sounded condescending. She said, "Marcus's former mother-in-law." I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by to see how you're settling in. My stomach did this weird flip. Why would his ex-mother-in-law be stopping by? And how did she know where we lived? I managed to be polite, invited her in because I didn't know what else to do. She walked through my house like she owned it, running her hand along the countertops, commenting on the furniture placement, noting what we'd changed. She said, "I see you painted the guest room. It was blue before." I preferred the blue before. I asked her what she meant and she just smiled again. That same cold smile. She said, "Oh, didn't Marcus tell you?" I've been here many times. I helped the previous owners with some renovations a few years back. I know this house quite well. Something felt off about the whole conversation, but I couldn't put my finger on it. She stayed for maybe 20 minutes making small talk, asking about my job, our marriage, our plans. Every question felt like she was probing for something. When she finally left, she touched my arm and said, "We should have lunch sometime, just us girls." I have so much I could tell you about Marcus. I closed the door behind her and immediately called Marcus. I told him what happened, and there was this pause. This long, heavy pause on the other end of the line. He said, "Patricia came by." His voice sounded strained. "What did she want?" I told him she said she was just in the neighborhood. He was quiet again, then said he'd talk to me about it when he got home. We needed to discuss some things. My heart was racing. What things? What wasn't he telling me? When Marcus got home that evening, he looked stressed, exhausted. He sat me down on the couch and took my hands in his. He said, "I should have told you this from the beginning. I was just trying to protect you from unnecessary drama." Protect me? My mind was spinning with possibilities. What could possibly involve his ex-mother-in-law that required protection? He explained that when he and Jennifer got divorced, Patricia had been really upset. Not because she was particularly close to Marcus, but because she'd invested a lot in their marriage. Financially invested. She'd helped them with their wedding, given them money for furniture, things like that. When they split, she'd felt like her investment was wasted. "Okay," I said, "but what does that have to do with us?" Marcus looked down at our joined hands. He said, "Patricia and I stayed in touch after the divorce. Just occasionally. She'd check in, see how I was doing. She felt bad about how things ended. She knew Jennifer had cheated on me. I didn't know that. He'd never told me his ex-wife cheated. He'd always just said they weren't compatible." I felt a pang of sympathy for him, for what he'd been through. He continued, "When we were looking for a house, I mentioned it to Patricia during one of our conversations. Just casual talk. And she offered to help. Help how?" I asked, though I was starting to get a sinking feeling. "She helped with the down payment," he said quietly. "Actually, she covered the entire down payment, and she helped us get approved for the mortgage. She co-signed." I pulled my hands away from his. "What? Marcus, that's not just helping. That's... Why would you agree to that? Why didn't you tell me?" He said he knew I'd react exactly like this. He knew I'd be uncomfortable with it. But we were so close to being able to afford a house, and Patricia's offer seemed like a gift. A way for her to do something good after everything that happened with Jennifer. She told him to consider it an apology for her daughter's behavior. I felt sick. Our dream home. The home I thought we'd worked so hard for. It wasn't really ours. It was Patricia's. I asked him if there were conditions. There had to be conditions, right? Nobody just hands over that kind of money without expecting something in return. Marcus assured me there weren't. She told him to pay her back whenever we could, no rush, no interest, just family helping family. Those were supposedly her exact words. Family helping family, except I wasn't family. I wasn't even in the picture when this arrangement was made. I was furious. Hurt, betrayed. How could he keep something this huge from me? This wasn't some small white lie. This was our home, our biggest investment, our future. And it was built on a foundation I knew nothing about. We fought that night. Really fought? I told him he'd made me a fool. That I'd been walking around bragging about our house, our accomplishment, when really it was all Patricia's money. He said I was overreacting, that it didn't change anything. The house was still in our names. We were still the owners, but were we? Really, I barely slept that night. I kept thinking about Patricia walking through the house, commenting on the paint colors, touching everything with this possessive familiarity. "I know this house quite well." That's what she'd said. Of course she did. She owned it. Maybe not on paper, but in every way that mattered. The next few weeks were tense. Marcus and I were barely speaking. I felt like I didn't know him anymore. What else had he kept from me? What other secrets was he hiding? Patricia called me 2 weeks later. She asked if I wanted to meet for lunch. That lunch she'd mentioned. I almost said no, but part of me needed answers. I needed to understand what kind of game she was playing. We met at this upscale restaurant downtown. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, sipping white wine. She stood up and hugged me like we were old friends. It made my skin crawl. We made small talk for a while. She asked about work, about Marcus, about the house. Always the house. Had we done any more decorating? Were we happy there? Did we love it as much as she thought we would? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I asked her directly why she'd helped us. What did she really want? Patricia set down her wine glass and looked at me with this calculating expression. She said, "I want Marcus to be happy. He deserves happiness after what my daughter put him through. And you seem like a lovely girl. Much better than Jennifer, but..." I prompted because there was clearly a but coming. She smiled. She said, "But nothing. I just want to be part of your lives. Is that so wrong? Marcus was my son-in-law." Just because the marriage didn't work out doesn't mean I stopped caring about him. I have no children now. Jennifer barely speaks to me. Marcus is the closest thing I have to family. There was something desperate in her voice that almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. But then she said something that changed everything. She said, "All I ask is that you remember who helped you when you needed it, that you remember who made your dream possible. Family takes care of family, Sarah. And I consider you family now." The way she said it, the emphasis on family. It felt like a threat disguised as sentimentality. I went home and told Marcus everything. I said we needed to pay Patricia back immediately. Sell the house if we had to. Get her out of our lives. He said I was being paranoid. Patricia was just lonely. She wasn't trying to manipulate us. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this was all going to blow up in our faces. I was right. 2 months ago, Patricia called Marcus. I didn't know about the call at first. He didn't tell me, but she asked him to meet her for coffee. Said she needed to discuss something important about the house. He met her the next day. When he came home, he looked pale. Shaken. I asked him what was wrong, and he said we needed to talk. Here we go, I thought. The other shoe was finally dropping. Patricia wanted a favor. That's how she phrased it, according to Marcus. Just a small favor between family. She was going through some financial difficulties. Some investments had gone bad. She needed a place to stay for a while until she got back on her feet. She wanted to move in with us, into our house. The house she'd paid for. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud because it was so absurd. There was no way, absolutely not. This was our home, our marriage. We weren't running a boarding house for his ex-mother-in-law. Marcus agreed with me. He said he'd already told her no, that it wouldn't be appropriate, that we needed our privacy. But then he got quiet. And I knew there was more. I asked him what else she said. He looked at me with these tired, defeated eyes. She reminded him that she co-signed on the mortgage, that legally she has a stake in the house. And if we refused her request, she might need to reconsider the arrangement. She might need us to pay her back immediately. All of it. The full down payment plus the amount she'd been covering on the mortgage. Wait. What? I asked him what he meant by the amount she'd been covering. He told me she only paid the down payment. His face told me everything I needed to know before he even spoke. She'd been paying part of our mortgage every month. A significant part. Without that contribution, we couldn't afford the house. Not even close. I felt the room spinning. How much? I asked. How much has she been paying? Almost 40% of the monthly payment. Every single month since we moved in, I couldn't breathe. 40%. For 8 months. Plus the down payment, which had to be at least $60,000. We owed her probably close to $100,000. Money we didn't have. Money we couldn't possibly pay back. I asked him why. Why would he agree to that? Why would he let her have that much control over us? He said it started as just help with the down payment. But then when it came time for the first mortgage payment, Patricia had called and offered to help with that too, just until we got more settled. Just for a few months. He'd thought it would be temporary. He'd thought he could handle it. He'd thought she was just being generous. But generosity always comes with a price. I was so angry I couldn't even look at him. I went to our bedroom and locked the door. I needed to think. I needed to figure out what to do. The next day, Patricia called me directly. She said she hoped Marcus had explained the situation. She said she didn't want to be a burden, but she really needed our help. Just for a little while. 6 months, maybe a year. She'd stay in the guest room, wouldn't get in our way. She'd even help with cooking and cleaning. I told her we needed time to think about it. She said, of course, but not too much time. She needed an answer by the end of the week. And if the answer was no, well, she'd need to make other arrangements. Financial arrangements. It was blackmail. Pure and simple. Move in or pay up. And she knew we couldn't pay up. I spent the next few days researching our options. I talked to a lawyer friend who confirmed what I already suspected. If Patricia demanded repayment and we couldn't pay, she could force the sale of the house. We'd lose everything. All the equity we'd built, all the money we'd put into renovations and repairs. We'd be back to square one, except now with a foreclosure or forced sale on our record. Marcus and I had the hardest conversation of our marriage. We talked about our options. We could refuse and try to come up with the money somehow. Take out loans, borrow from family, drain our retirement accounts. But even then, we might not get enough in time. We could agree to let her move in and hope it really would be temporary. Hope she'd get back on her feet and move out. But what if she didn't? What if 6 months turned into a year, then 2 years, then indefinitely? What if this was her plan all along? To buy her way into her ex-son-in-law's life because she was lonely and desperate for family, or we could sell the house ourselves, pay her back, and start over. But the market had shifted. We'd probably barely break even after paying her back and covering the selling costs. We'd have wasted a year of our lives and have nothing to show for it. Every option was terrible. I asked Marcus how he could have let this happen, how he could have been so naive. He said he never thought Patricia would do something like this. She'd seemed so genuine, so kind. She told him she just wanted to help because she felt guilty about Jennifer. But here's what I think really happened. I think Patricia saw an opportunity. Her daughter's ex-husband, someone she could manipulate, someone who felt indebted to her because of what Jennifer did. She saw a way to buy herself a family, to force herself into someone's life because her own daughter wanted nothing to do with her. And Marcus, sweet, trusting Marcus, walked right into her trap and dragged me along with him. 2 weeks ago, we gave Patricia our answer. We said she could move in. What choice did we have? We couldn't afford to pay her back. We couldn't afford to lose the house, so we agreed to her terms. 6 months, we said, that's it. She needed to be out in 6 months. She smiled that cold smile and said 6 months would be perfect. Plenty of time for her to get sorted out. She moved in last weekend. Showed up with a moving truck full of furniture. Furniture she wanted to put in the guest room. Furniture that didn't match our style at all. But what could we say? It's her room now, isn't it? Her house, really. The first night she was here, she made dinner for all of us. This elaborate meal that she served in our dining room. She sat at the head of the table, the spot where I usually sit, and acted like the hostess. Like this was her home and we were the guests. Marcus and I barely spoke. We just ate and nodded and tried to get through it. After dinner, Patricia said she wanted to talk about house rules, in our house. She said since we were all living together, we needed to establish some guidelines. She suggested a cleaning schedule, a cooking rotation, quiet hours. I excused myself and went to our bedroom. I couldn't listen to another word. I heard Marcus trying to politely push back, telling her that we'd figure things out as we went, but his voice was weak, defeated. That night, lying in bed, I asked Marcus what we'd become. How had we let someone take over our lives like this? He didn't have an answer. He just held me and apologized over and over. But sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't get Patricia out of our house. It's been a week now. 7 days of living with my husband's ex-mother-in-law. 7 days of her rearranging my kitchen cabinets because her way is more efficient. 7 days of her commenting on what I wear, what I cook, how I clean. 7 days of her inserting herself into every aspect of our marriage. Last night, Marcus and I tried to have a private conversation in our bedroom. We were talking about maybe looking for a financial advisor, someone who could help us figure out how to pay Patricia back sooner. The door was closed. We were speaking quietly. There was a knock. Patricia poked her head in and asked if everything was okay. She'd heard voices and wanted to make sure we weren't fighting. She said fighting isn't healthy for a marriage. She should know, she said. She'd watched Jennifer's marriage fall apart because of poor communication. I wanted to scream. This is exactly what's unhealthy for a marriage. Having your husband's ex-mother-in-law living with you, monitoring your every move, controlling your home. But I smiled and said we were fine, just talking. She nodded and reminded us that she's here if we ever need to talk. She's been through a lot, she said. She understands marriage struggles. After she left, I started crying, actual tears streaming down my face. Marcus tried to comfort me, but what comfort is there? We're trapped. In our own home, we're trapped. This morning, I overheard Patricia on the phone with someone. She was in the kitchen and I was upstairs, but her voice carried. She was talking about the house, about how nice it is to finally have a real home again, how she'd been so lonely in her apartment, how this arrangement was working out perfectly. For her, maybe. I came downstairs and she was making breakfast. She'd bought groceries yesterday, filled our refrigerator with food we didn't ask for. She made me eggs and toast and sat across from me at the table. She said we should talk, just us. Woman to woman, my stomach dropped. What now? She said she could tell I was uncomfortable with the situation. She understood. It's not easy having a house guest, especially long-term, but she wanted me to know that she wasn't here to cause problems. She was here because she needed help, and family helps family. There was that phrase again. Family helps family. I asked her when she thought she'd be able to move out, what her timeline looked like. She took a sip of coffee and said these things take time. The market is tough. She needs to rebuild her savings. It could be 6 months, could be longer. We just have to see, longer. She was already laying the groundwork to stay past our agreement. I told her as calmly as I could that 6 months was what we agreed to, that Marcus and I need our space, our privacy. She nodded sympathetically and said she completely understood. But then she added, of course, if I need to leave sooner, we'd need to settle the financial arrangement. She'd need her money back, another threat. Veiled, but clear. I excused myself and went to work early. I couldn't be in that house another minute. I sat in my car in the parking lot and just cried. How did my life become this? A year ago, I was so happy, planning our future, excited about our home. Now I feel like a stranger in my own house, like a guest who's overstayed her welcome, except I'm the one who's supposed to live there. I called my best friend Amanda and told her everything. The whole sordid story. She was furious on my behalf. She said I needed to put my foot down. Tell Patricia to leave. Consequences be damned, but it's not that simple. If we force her out and she demands repayment, we lose everything. Our home, our savings, our credit, we'd be starting from scratch. And honestly, I don't know if our marriage would survive that. The resentment, the financial stress, the blame, it might break us, but I'm not sure our marriage can survive this either. Living with Patricia is killing us slowly. Every day, there's some new boundary crossed, some new way she inserts herself into our lives. Yesterday, she suggested we all go to church together on Sunday. As a family, Marcus tried to politely decline, saying we usually sleep in on Sundays. She looked hurt and said she just thought it would be nice, a way for us to bond. Then she added that the church has a great community. People who understand the importance of family taking care of each other, more manipulation, more guilt. This morning, I found her in our bedroom. She said she was just putting away some laundry she'd done. Laundry I didn't ask her to do. She was folding my underwear, putting my clothes in my drawers, touching my things, in my private space. I tried to tell her nicely that I preferred to do my own laundry. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. She said she was just trying to help, trying to earn her keep. She didn't want us to think she was just freeloading, but that's exactly what she's doing. She's not paying rent. She's not contributing to utilities or groceries beyond the random items she buys. She's living in our house rent-free because she's holding our financial future hostage. I talked to Marcus again last night. I told him this couldn't continue. We needed a plan, a real plan to get her out. He agreed, but what plan? We've gone over the numbers 100 times. We can't afford to pay her back, not without destroying our finances. He suggested maybe we could take out a personal loan, use it to pay her back, then we just have loan payments instead of Patricia. I looked into it. The interest rates are terrible. We'd be paying twice what we owe her by the time the loan was paid off. But at least she'd be gone. I'm seriously considering it. Even if it means years of debt, years of struggling financially, at least we'd have our home back. Our privacy, our marriage. But then I think, why should we have to go into debt to fix a problem Marcus created? Why should I have to sacrifice my financial future because he was too proud or too stupid to tell me the truth from the beginning? I'm angry at him. So angry. Every time I look at him, I feel this surge of resentment. He did this to us. He let Patricia into our lives. He gave her power over us. And now we're both paying the price. Last night, we had our first real fight since Patricia moved in. I told him I couldn't do this anymore, that I needed him to fix it. He said he was trying. I said trying wasn't enough. I needed action. I needed her gone. He raised his voice, something he rarely does. He said, "What do you want me to do, Sarah? I made a mistake. I get it. But I can't change the past. We have to deal with the reality we're in." I told him the reality we're in is that his ex-mother-in-law controls our lives, that we're prisoners in our own home, that I can't even have a private conversation with my husband without her eavesdropping. He said I was being dramatic. That it's only been a week. We need to give it time. Time, that's what Patricia's counting on. That we'll get used to her being here. That the weeks will turn into months and the months into years. That eventually we'll just accept this as our new normal, but I won't. I can't. This morning, Patricia made a comment about redecorating the living room. She said the colors are too dark. She'd like to brighten it up, make it more welcoming. I told her we like it the way it is. She smiled and said, "We'll see. Maybe I'll grow on you, we'll see." Like she has any say in how we decorate our home, except she does, doesn't she? She has all the say. Because it's her money that's keeping us here, I've started looking at apartments. Just browsing online, seeing what's out there, what I could afford on my own if it came to that. It's depressing. Tiny studios in bad neighborhoods, nothing like the home I thought I had, but maybe that's what I need. A fresh start, away from Marcus and his lies. Away from Patricia and her manipulation. Just me in a small apartment, rebuilding my life from scratch. I haven't told Marcus I'm looking. I don't know if I will. Maybe I'm just torturing myself. Or maybe I'm preparing for the inevitable, because I don't know how much more of this I can take. Living with Patricia is like death by 1,000 cuts. Little comments, little intrusions, little reminders that this isn't really my home. Each one alone is bearable. But together, they're suffocating me. Yesterday, she asked when Marcus and I were planning to have kids. She said this house is perfect for a family. plenty of room, and she'd be happy to help with childcare. She could be like a live-in grandmother. The thought of bringing a child into this situation made me physically ill. Can you imagine raising a baby with Patricia hovering over every decision, criticizing my parenting, undermining me at every turn? No, absolutely not. I told her we weren't planning on kids anytime soon. She looked disappointed and said I shouldn't wait too long. I'm not getting any younger, I'm 32. But thanks, Patricia, for the reminder that my biological clock is ticking. Marcus didn't say anything during this conversation, just sat there looking uncomfortable. He never stands up to her, never tells her to back off or mind her own business. He just lets her say whatever she wants. I'm starting to wonder if he actually likes having her here. If some part of him enjoys having a mother figure around. His own mom lives across the country. Maybe Patricia fills some void for him, but she's creating a void in our marriage. A space between us that grows wider every day. I don't know what to do anymore. I feel stuck. Trapped. Every option seems terrible. Stay and slowly lose my mind. Leave and lose everything I've worked for. Take on crushing debt to buy our freedom. There's no good answer, and Patricia knows it. I see it in her eyes when she looks at me, this smug satisfaction. She won. She got exactly what she wanted, a home, a family. Control. I asked her this morning, point blank, what her endgame was, what she really wanted from us. She acted confused, said she just wanted a place to stay while she got back on her feet. That's all, but I don't believe her. This was never about financial difficulties. This was about loneliness, about forcing herself into our lives because she has no one else. And the saddest part, I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. Because how pathetic do you have to be to manipulate your way into your ex-son-in-law's home? How desperate, but my pity doesn't change the situation. It doesn't make her any less toxic. It doesn't make our home any more ours. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to Marcus snore beside me. I thought about our wedding day, how happy I was, how sure I was that we'd found our forever. Now I'm not sure of anything. This morning, I'm sitting in my car again. I've been coming to work early just to avoid being in the house with Patricia. I sit here and I think about what my life has become. How did I end up here? How did I let this happen? But I didn't let it happen. Marcus did. He made choices without me. He kept secrets. He prioritized avoiding difficult conversations over being honest with his wife. And now we're both paying for it. I don't know how this story ends. I don't know if Marcus and I will make it through this. I don't know if we'll find a way to get Patricia out without destroying ourselves financially. All I know is that the dream home I thought I had was never really mine. It was always hers. And now she's here to collect. Girls, have you ever felt trapped in your own life? Like every choice you make is wrong? That's where I am right now. And I honestly don't know if there's a way out.